Yeah, you're watching the Break It Down show. This is our tribute to the late great, the very recently late and
Yeah,
a very long time great,
very long
Sylvester
time great.
Stewart, also known as Sly Stone, who passed away as we record this. When did he pass away? Yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday. Can you
Yeah.
Yesterday.
hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, we can,
Yes.
Corey.
Oh, you can hear me.
Yeah.
Can you turn your camera 90 degrees so we can get to see all of your big handsome face?
My big handsome face. 90 degrees.
Yeah, 90. That's 180. That's 100. That's 360. Just, just
Okay. All
There
there
right,
we
you
there we
go.
go.
go. All
Oh
right,
Yeah,
cool.
man, that's
Well, I want to.
Corey in
Oh, I
all of
gotta
his
put this on
glory.
full screen.
yeah. This is great. I love it.
So I just
Oh,
did
that's
a
it.
brief intro before you jumped in, Corey. So I want to just extend it by saying joining us is my long time friend, dear friend of both Pete and myself and the show. Um, somebody who was monumental in very many ways in that he wrote the original theme for the Break It Down show. He
That's right.
also introduced us to Sly Stone so that we could conduct our 100th episode as an interview with Sly. He, wow, that was weird.
Yeah. There's too many Corey
Corey,
in this universe.
yeah, that's right.
Okay, there we go. Hold on.
Here's the thing about Corey. He is
Wait, no, you're taking me back to high school now.
no, no, I've
Taking me
moved
back
beyond
to
that.
camping
I've
on
moved
the
beyond
bus.
that.
Like, here's the thing
Listen,
about Corey.
here's the thing about Corey. Let's
I
start
feel
with
like
his teeth.
I'm gonna get capped on.
His abilities as a musician have taken him a very long way, and those abilities include a phone call, a very faithful phone call I got one morning at 7 o'clock. Now, Corey and I have been friends for a very long time. I can say this about all three of us, and that we may receive a phone call from any one of us at any given hour of the day or night or anything, and it's neither a surprise nor an inconvenience. So I answered the phone at what was probably about 7 in the morning, and honestly, for a rock star, that's a little early. So I was concerned when I looked down at my phone and I saw Corey's name, and I answered the phone, and I said, what's with you, Corey?" And he said, "Man, I just had the greatest night." And I said, "What happened?" Expecting to hear some sordid details, which I was perfectly willing to sit through. But what you said when I answered the phone, Corey, was I've been up all night in the studio with Sly Stone and George Clinton.
Jesus.
Yeah, and I can think of no better way to include blowing hookers and everything else uh, to to stay up all night than to be in the tutelage of those two individuals, either one of the two of them, but the two of them together had to be monumentous. So I think we spent probably the next 90 minutes on the phone so that I could grasp every detail of what happened. And I remember that the big takeaway from the session was that your playing hadn't yet reached its pinnacle, and the reason for that was you play like you give a good goddamn.
Yeah, yeah. That was what was said by Sly, and George Clinton chimed in also by saying,
Yeah.
"You need to play like you don't give a fuck."
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I will never forget those words from those two cats.
I won't either. I thought that, I mean, the seriousness with which you've always approached your musical abilities, um, you needed to be told that by somebody. I guess they decided that that's what you needed to be told. So I thought, man, here's Corey with all these amazing chops. He probably did great, and you probably did. But they thought, for you to go to the next level, here's what the next level looks like. And the profundity of that statement, man, just really speaks to what their contributions have meant to those of us who love the funk and who love everything else. But we can celebrate George on another occasion. Today we're here to celebrate Sly Stone, who also just happened to be um, a relative of yours.
Yeah, his father,
Hmm.
Sly Stone's father, and my grandfather on my mother's side
Hmm.
were first cousins.
Wow.
Okay.
And my mother used to see them every weekend. I think every Sunday after church. Sly spent a lot of time in Vallejo.
Yeah.
He was born, and I talked to my mother yesterday, and she said, "Are they going to have the services up here because this is where he was born? He should be up here."
Well, to be clear, he grew up in Vallejo. He was born in Denton, Texas, but he moved to Vallejo
didn't
at a
text, yeah,
very young age,
yeah,
and his formative years were spent there.
yeah.
And if you're a musician from Vallejo, as Corey and I both are, then he meant a great deal and was very, very, if not present, uh, in the periphery of everybody's upbringing. Because I remember a couple of things. It was always, "Oh, you're taking up music." Well, the very most famous musician from Vallejo, California, before it was E40, was Sly
Into the
Stone, and
yeah,
we all heard about it as young musicians,
yeah.
and so we were inculcated into the music of Sly Stone for very good reason. I don't think you could have or should have escaped being familiar with his body of work
Mm-hmm,
if you were at all from the Bay Area, especially from Vallejo, especially from the funkier parts of the Bay Area. If you were from Oakland, you certainly were well aware of that body of work. We also had the late Dwayne Wiggins on
yeah.
the show. And we should probably give him some flowers too, because we didn't do an episode in tribute to him. But he told us flat out, Tony, when we formed that band, we were trying to be Sly and the Family Stone.
Mm,
And that influence is crystal clear.
yeah.
But also in Vallejo, I remember I had met up with these musicians and that we played for a while, and we played at this house. We rehearsed at this house on Denio Street, which is right off Sacramento Street, which was reportedly to be where Sly had lived for a while,
Mm,
and it had Family Stone rehearsals. I don't know that to be 100% true, but that's what I was told at the time.
mm-hmm.
Um, and because I was told that at the time, it was very special. We revered the space, and then we thought, man, well, we better deliver while we're in here. I can't come in here messing around, which is the antithesis of what he told you to play like.
Man, when you look at that and you go, you listen to that statement. When I heard it, I was dumbfounded.
Hmm.
I was like, I spent all these years trying to play well and good and study my chords. And Sly, by the way, was a theorist. He believed in theory and knew his theory. But you could have the biggest puzzle piece and the best puzzle, but just because that piece is the biggest doesn't mean it will fit in any of the holes.
Hmm.
And that's what he was saying. Basically, yeah, you play well, but if you're trying to play this kind of music, you can't
Hmm.
play like that. That's not what it is. Like, I can play all these chops, but I'm not going to be in a Latin band playing like that. I'm not going to be playing in an orchestra playing like that. That has its own place. That's what I took from that. He's like, if you want to play funk, okay, you play well. You play like you can play anything. But if you're playing funk, this is how we play funk. And Sly, I will never forget. There's a whole bunch of things I'll never forget about him. But one time he said, come over. I want to redo Que Sera Sera. And he recorded that for a woman he was dating, Doris Day. I don't know if you know.
Yes.
Doris Day.
They kept that on the under.
It's Doris Day. That's like Kanye,
Yeah.
Taylor Swift.
Right.
Yeah, that's Doris Day. And
Well, no, it's like Kanye dating Taylor Swift, but in a much more racially charged and segregated time in history.
well, which was why that ended.
Yeah.
That ended. And there's a lot of conflicting reports, and Some people said, no. He told me he didn't. And I was like, he told me he did. I mean, I'm going to say this.
Uh-huh.
I was told by the horse's mouth.
Uh-huh.
That's Doris. He talked to me about she would come by the studio. They would leave together. If they weren't dating, a lot was there's some dating benefits were going on.
Right.
You know, and Doris, it wasn't just Sly, it was Jackie Robinson.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, Doris had jungle fever.
Yeah. Yeah, that to me only makes her more
She was
lovable.
open. And
Yeah.
his run-in with Manson.
Wait, before you get to Manson, though, the thing about Doris Day was that publicly she allowed everybody to believe she was dating Rock Hudson.
Yeah, she also
Wait, that again, you blanked out.
She allowed everybody to believe that she was dating Rock Hudson
Oh,
because she was his beard.
well, and then
So,
she was his beard, yeah.
yeah.
Because Rock Hudson wasn't dating no Doris. Rock Hudson was,
No.
other dude, like Rock Hudson,
He wasn't doing what Sly was doing.
Man, there are some stories, there are some things, but I have to talk to you guys like off. There's some things that, man, that shouldn't be mentioned on the podcast. But the story was, okay, so I want to redo Que Sera Sera. So I go over there and he plays Que Sera Sera because I forgot how to play it and I didn't have time to listen to because he's like, come over now. That's the type of,
Yeah.
So I get over there, he plays it, and I say, hey, okay, play it. And he played it, and then he said, okay, now you play it. I said, play it one more time. He plays it again with all different chords.
Yeah.
And so I play it, and I'm trying to, and my learning curve when it comes to that was a little bit longer than his patience, because Sly is known for 2 takes. That's it. He did that. Bow Long. He did that with Daryl Finney, who sang with Michael Jackson for 15 years. He did that with Bridget Bryant, who sang with Daryl Finney. And there's a crazy story about that. I got to tell that. That was a Harlequin moment when those 3. No matter who's in the studio he's with, you only get 2 takes. I've heard Quincy Jones gave up to 7 takes, maybe 8 takes. That's it. Sly, after my second take, he said, okay, thank you. You can go now. But wait. No.
That's it.
Adamant about it. That I don't, and I asked him, I think down the road, I said, why you only give everybody 2 takes? He says, if you ain't got it after the first one or the second one, you ain't gonna get it. And that's just his way of thinking. And he had a session with another sidebar story, Ray Charles, his favorite artist in the entire world, Ray Charles. And he had a session with Ray Charles and didn't show up. He didn't go to the session. It's like, you had a session with Ray Charles and you didn't show up? Why didn't you show up? He said, because I didn't have my shit together. He said, you don't go in the studio with someone like that and you're not prepared.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. You know how many times I went to Corey's house anyway? Anyway.
Tell us the Harlequin moment. Tell us the Harlequin moment.
Oh, the Harlequin. Okay, so Sly called. At this point, he was living in a penthouse in Beverly Hills. This is before all the courts. He was living in a penthouse, Beverly Hills, on top of the penthouse. And he calls me and he says, come over. I go over. I'm taking his stuff. He says, I need you to call the best singers you know. Best singers you know, because I want to record this song. I said, okay. So I called Daryl Finney. I said, Daryl. And Daryl's Michael Jackson, Stevie Wonder, Diane Warren, one of the most sought after session singers, Rod Stewart, one of the most sought after session singers in the world, in LA. I mean, he sang on countless songs. So I don't know. And I met Daryl at a barbecue, and we were supposed to And the only reason I went to that barbecue was because there was this
Because you love chicken.
right. Hey, shit, hell yeah, I like chicken.
Try to explain why you went to a
I
barbecue.
went to a barbecue, but it was the barbecue was in Brentwood. It was
Okay.
in Brentwood, and this dentist, because at the time I was playing out in on Third Street Promenade making money. This dentist would just come and he'd say, "Hey man, you should come to my barbecues. I have barbecues at my." I didn't know this guy. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if he's wine.
But he had barbecue, so
Yeah,
hey,
barbecue.
I'll
So
show
I was
up.
like, but he found out where I worked, and
Uh-huh.
I ran into him on a job. Hey man, you gonna? I was like, oh, I better come because now he knows where I live. So I go there. I'm sitting there. I don't know anybody. I don't even know him. So I'm sitting at the barbecue. They call Daryl up, and then they call me up, and that's the first time I meet Daryl. I say I'm not really a blues player because they were playing blues. He says I'm not really a blues singer. So we did a Sam Cooke song. And that was how I met Daryl. And then Daryl told me he sings with Michael Jackson. I was like, no, you don't. And Michael Jackson?
You said I play with Sly Stone, and he said, "No, you don't."
Yeah. I went to his. He had a bad car. He wrecked it, but it was nice. It was a really nice ride. And then I went to where he lived, and I saw a Grammy for the first time. He has a Grammy for Best Jazz Vocals with Claire Fisher, of all people, and
Man,
for writing the theme song to Frasier.
come on.
Yeah. So
He wrote that with Claire Fisher?
yeah. Claire Fisher
Wow.
said, "Hey man, do you write?" And Daryl said, "Yeah, I write." And he said, "Hey, I got this thing you want to do," and it was green eggs and ham. Whatever it was, he got
tossed salad and scrambled eggs.
Tossed salad and tossed salad and scrambled eggs. And I was like,
green eggs and ham.
You are the real. He's the real deal.
Yeah.
And then, he sang on my second album, and didn't charge me, but he showed me the professionalism that a vocalist is supposed to.
He set the bar.
Set the bar. He says he called me. The session was at 10. He called me at 8 or 9. He said I just got through warming up for 2 hours to do a session. Warming up. I was like, whoa. Is that what they do? Because most singers, most musicians, especially in LA, will show up to the rehearsal, haven't learned anything. They just go
put out a cigarette.
Right. Can you play the song? Yeah, play the song. Okay, I got it. And then they
go in, stink up the booth.
Right. So Sly says, call the best singer you know. Obviously, that's the best singer I know. He showed me. And I said, I don't know who you can call, but Sly wants 2 singers to come over and sing one of his songs. Daryl hadn't met Sly yet. Daryl, and of course he wanted to meet Sly. Bridget hadn't met him either. He called Bridget Bryant, who sang with I think it was Stevie Wonder, also Elton John, just a host of people.
Yeah, roster. Right,
a roster. And then they get there. Oh, I want John to hear this. Did he just bleep out?
I don't know where he went exactly. I'm hoping he's right there, but
here he comes.
Maybe not.
So they come to the top of the penthouse, and Sly's in his room. Is he? Where's he at?
He's probably got his phone doing something else.
I can tell it again. Are you going to edit this, or are we?
Oh, we're live.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, he just has to.
He can listen later on.
He'll play catch up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sly comes out, and he said, "Yeah, this is my cousin." He said, "This is my cousin Corey. He tells me you guys can sing." And I said, "These are the best singers I know." I said, "Sing for him, guys." And they start singing. I don't know what they started singing. They just started harmonizing a random vocal riff. And Sly puts his finger up, runs into the kitchen, because it was the living room and then the kitchen, and it was a 2-bedroom. runs into the kitchen, faces the refrigerator, and starts singing back to them. Now, in the vocal world or in the musician world, if someone plays the same instrument as you and they're in your vicinity, proximity, and you hear something that you like, or someone sings something that you like, you answer them. You know what I mean? You answer them. And so that's what was happening. You just start. I was at the airport with Ellis Hall, who's an amazing blind bass player, and we run into Rochelle Farrell, because we were on the road with Bobby Womack, and Rochelle Farrell. We say, hey, it's Rochelle Farrell. Ellis starts singing, and Rochelle doesn't stop. She sings back to him. So you got this going on. And then they get close to each other and they start riffing off of each other. That's what Sly was doing with Bridget and Daryl. That was the Harlequin moment. That was like, oh, I wish I could have gotten that on tape. I wish, but when you are around those type of people, you don't want to fan out, hey, you gonna get a picture or let me record this, because that's not cool.
Right.
You don't want to be a fan around those people. You kind of want to just be cool. Like oh yeah, I'm used to this. And the people who aren't used to this, let me get a selfie. Let me take a picture with you. So I didn't do that. I didn't do none of that. There are some pictures that were taken at rehearsals, but I didn't do that. And I was talking to Daryl about that yesterday, because he had called and we were just reminiscing about that wasn't the first time we met with Sly, that he met Sly. We met Sly again when he was on the when he was in the hotels up and down the from the airport, and he wanted a singer on this one song. So Daryl came again and sang, and Sly just sat there and just looked at him like, this brother can sing. And this is an OG. This is an OG. He's now an ancestor, but the OGs, you are not going to get a pat on the back. You are not going to get a clap. You are going to get a smile, like, a smile. Same with Lauryn Hill when she said, "Oh, I want all this done, all this done. I'll be back in 2 hours." 2 hours comes back. She comes in. She says, "Okay, hit the space bar." I hit the space bar, and she walks out of the room. So I'm like, "No!" She didn't like. That's what I thought. But she walks back in with her guitar and says, "Play it again." That's a pat on the back. That's you're doing good. That's I like it. That's what that is. You're not gonna because you're at their level. They feel like you're at their level. They're not gonna compliment you because you're at their level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Black belts. Do black belts compliment black belts? Do snipers
In the same kind of way,
in the
like
same
you're
kind of way?
complimented by being in the company,
Right.
and you know
Right.
where you are. So it's like getting in the batter's box and
Yeah.
getting a hit off of Roger Clemens. Okay, he'll give you a nod. But don't disrespect him, because he'll put one in your ribs the next time you get up to bat. So it's the same kind of thing. Like you said, you got to be cool and understand that those moments are magical in the universe. But if your job is to make magic, then the magic happens.
And the same thing when we haven't talked about George, but he played. That was it when he 2 takes. That's it. Moving on. Okay. And another time, me and George were redoing Flashlight, and Sly said, "Hey, let's redo Flashlight." And I said, "Okay." But Sly went to sleep, and I had to redo Flashlight in front of George Clinton.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
And I mean, you're talking. I go downstairs. George is there. He's got headphones on. And you know what else he's got?
Mhm.
And he's listening to some of the most obscure music from the 50s, that none of the popular stuff, none of it. It was like all indie artists that have never made a name for themselves, but it was some of the best music I'd ever heard. It was from the 50s, 40s and 50s, like the pop, maybe it was the doo-wop era, but it was great. I was like, who is that? Oh, that's not the Shy Lights, but whoever the Shy Lights outshined,
Uh-huh.
that's who that was. And I said, Sly wants me to redo the track, and then he's gonna come down. And George just said, okay. And I was like, took a deep breath and realized I forgot how to play Flashlight. I just,
Oh,
I just like, I knew what the scale was, the mode, so
uh-huh.
I picked it out. But I put headphones on. I'm not gonna do this out loud in front of this guy. I put headphones on so he couldn't hear what I was doing. Then when I was done, I said, "Hey, can you? What do you think?" And I played it out loud, and he said I could work with that. And I was like, "Whoa!" So for the next
Oh,
3 hours, we torqued that on a Mac, an Intel Mac, not no M1 because they weren't out back then. And then the CPU was like all the way to the top. And he was like, "Give me another track." And I'm like, "Oh, is this CPU gonna handle this? Give me another track. Let's do this. Add reharmonize stuff. Put hand claps, like everything." George was just, and I got to see the genius of George Clinton. And then when we were done, if you guys do an episode on Georgia, I would like to be part of that.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it.
yeah.
If you, when we were done, I start banging that track out like in the room. This is Sly lived in Porter Ranch. In walks Sly Stone with a smile on his face, and
Mm.
that's and I was just like inside. I was jumping up like a pig and shit, just happy, like, oh my god, this guy likes it. And he walks over and he says, "Give me a keyboard." There you go. There's another pat on the back.
Mm.
OGs ain't gonna. They're like, yeah. He's like, yeah. And we did that. And that to me was one of the greatest experiences with those two guys. It was just us three in that room. Just
Man.
me, Sly Stone, George Clinton. What? Whoa, heavy. And I'm sitting here. I gotta be cool. I gotta be cool. I'm sitting here like just almost shaking because of who this is.
Yeah, of course.
But they showed me that they're real people. It's just that when it comes to their superpowers, I got to see George Clinton's superpower, and I was becoming experienced more and more with Sly's superpower, which was just the flow state. They call it a flow state.
Mm-hmm.
When you are at a level where everything you do is right, you can never do it. Nothing you do is wrong.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Pete. You're at the range and you're always hitting the bullseye.
Yeah.
You're just always you're in a flow state. You're in that center circle.
That reminds me of the story that Steph Curry tells about the time when he played against Kobe for the first time, and Kobe, saw him coming because of his college performances and stuff. So he pressed him. He pressed him hard all
Mm.
the way. As soon as the inbounds pass came in, he was pressing him in the first quarter. And then at some point, he did something really good, and he shook Kobe. And then when they ran back down, Kobe tapped him on the butt and said, "That was nice." And then, you know, Steph did the same thing. He was just cool. He didn't react to it. He just ran down the court, played his game. But at halftime, he ran in the booth and said, "Hey, I'm gonna need that footage."
That was, I mean, if
I wish you had that footage, Corey.
I have a little footage of that day, but I can't release it because there was some shit in that footage that does not need. Maybe I should blur it out.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
I'll have to tell
no,
you.
it doesn't need to ever see the light of day, but just as
Right.
long as you have it.
Right. I have it. Or if I'm hanging out with you guys, I will make sure I have it so you can see. It's just
Okay.
a little.
Yeah, I'll look at it too.
Yeah.
There
But
was one time though. Can I tell the trailer story?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one time I'm sitting at home and I get a call from Corey. Corey says, "Hey man, I'm coming to Vallejo." And I was living in Benicia at the time, and I said, "Okay, yeah, maybe we can get together and have some lunch or something." That's because that's what I thought you were calling about. And he goes, "Well, I'm calling about I really need your help." And I was like, "Okay, what do you need?" And he said, "Well, Sly's got a trailer that's in storage and I'm supposed to go access that trailer and get some things that are in there. And I said, okay, like thinking, well, maybe you need help moving maybe there's a mixer in there and it's heavy or whatever. And you said, no, apparently it's possible that there are some firearms
A
in
lot.
that trailer. And
Yeah.
I don't really know what to do with them. And I want to make sure that I store them safely to transport them back to LA. And I said, yeah, I'll give you a hand with that. Sure. And the long and the short of it was there didn't end up being an arsenal in there. There was
Mm.
we found like a couple pellet guns or something. It was nothing serious.
Mm.
And we
Or
were able
that
to just,
air gun that we didn't know what it shot. Remember that air
yeah,
gun?
yeah. But we were able to put it away and make it so
Right.
that you could drive safely and nobody was going to get shot in the foot. But what we did find in there, oh, and the other instruction was to salvage whatever, retrieve whatever musical gear was in that trailer.
Right.
And you didn't know what you were going to find in there. Um, and I don't remember specifically what musical gear there was in there, but it wasn't much.
Well, there was a huge mixer, but it was waterlogged because the trailer, the rain,
Yeah.
waterlogged.
The
There was
trailer had
speakers.
been sitting there for years.
Yeah.
And as I remember it, the door wasn't even locked.
Right.
And the trailer was if there's any Vallejoans watching this, it was parked at Trailer City,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I
which
used to
is on
play.
Springs Road, which
Mm.
is a main, like it wasn't exactly tucked away anywhere.
It was
It was
big.
a
It was
yeah,
like you could live in that thing.
you could. It was very big, yeah. And we went in there, and the thing was a mess. I mean,
Yeah.
everything was just thrown in there.
Yeah.
But there were stage costumes in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Pete, Sly was not a big man.
No.
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 There was a form-fitted costume that included a sequined jacket with tails. And when I say sequined, the entire jacket looked like a disco ball,
Yeah.
except for on the back in cursive letters, it said Sly up the
Right.
back.
Yeah.
And there were slip on, zip up the side, platform boots. I mean, there were just, man, costumes from Don Kirshner's rock concert appearance of Sly and the Family Stone. There was just, man. And so you better believe that those things got retrieved. There were men's fur coats, as I recall, two of them. I had to put one on. We took a couple pictures. I had to put it on because that's what pimps do. And it was both a trip down memory lane. I mean, man, we got a lot of laughs. Because then after that, we didn't just put you back on the road. We went back to my house with all that stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we called people up and said, you got to
Yeah.
come see this.
Yeah.
And then we tried on Sly Stone stage costumes from 1977.
Yeah.
It was probably more like 1973.
Yeah. Early 70s. I mean, from his heyday.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
then,
and it was the magnificence of it all was
yeah.
terrific. Um, you know, we're saying all of these things without really acknowledging the musical legacy, which of course is the most important thing. But the second most important thing behind all the great songs, because I'm going to encourage everybody, just go get the Sly Stone catalog, all of it,
Mhm.
and put it in your whatever library, Spotify or iTunes or whatever you listen to, and just soak it up because it's fantastic and it's a journey. And they use the words like genius were invented for exactly this kind of body of work.
Yeah.
And but culturally, the what he put out to the world, having a multiracial band with men and women in it, and Cynthia Robinson played the trumpet, and she sang marvelously, but her trumpet playing, that was not a traditional female
No.
role in a band.
No.
And I mean, everything that they did, the whole scheme was deliberate.
Yeah.
You know, that wasn't just that she happened to be the best singer slash trumpet player he could find. She was,
Uh-huh.
you know, and Freddie and Rose and everybody in the band, you know, Greg, Jerry, everybody was fantastic.
Right. Larry.
Yeah, well, and Larry
Yeah.
was, I mean, of all of their contributions, you know, his was maybe by a nose the most groundbreaking,
Mm.
individually, but collectively they were doing it unlike anybody else had ever done it or had anybody else ever been allowed to do it, and they did it unapologetically. They never asked for permission, they just did it, and it was so good that it was undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a lesson to all of us. You
Yeah.
know, we should all just do it and be the example and do exactly what you want to do, exactly how you want to do it without, you know,
Without apology.
consideration of convention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or any of that. And that's the biggest thing that I think he gave to us, besides the joy of all the music that he
Mm-hmm.
left with us.
Yeah.
And then luckily for the three of us, the joy of, you know, a great many number of incredible stories, you
Oh my.
know.
Yeah.
And I mean, as many times as you got to interact with him and as much of an influence as he was on your playing and your performance and
Yeah.
your writing and, you know, all of those things. You know, we were just lucky to be in um his periphery through you on a couple of occasions that, you know, even long past his heyday, Pete and I quote profound things that he said to us. And shoot, how can you, you know, how can you ever be grateful enough for those kind of things?
I mean, all of the. I He said to me once. He said, "I got this lyric, and it's for a girl, and it goes, 'You're a 10 without the 1.'" Oh, and then
Uh,
he and you guys answer this question. He said, "You can only pick one: Duke Ellington or Dizzy Gillespie.
mm,
What's your choice?" I'm thinking this.
wow.
Wait, this is a trick question because
Uh-huh.
both icons. It's like you can only pick one. Which one?
Mm.
Um, you guys can go first,
Oh, wow.
and you got to have a
Ooh,
reason.
that's tough, huh? Mm.
I'm gonna take Jelly Roll because he got there first.
Oh, come
I was like Jelly Roll Morton.
Yeah.
No, he Dizzy Gillespie or Duke Ellington.
Okay. I'll say Duke. And here's why. I think his compositions ring true for me. I was fortunate enough to see Dizzy um, before he passed away,
Oh wow.
and that was amazing. And he was still amazing. And at the time, I think he was maybe 131 years old,
Yeah.
and he was still fantastic. But since I never got to see Duke Ellington, he
Yeah.
lives only mythically
Uh,
in my mind. So
okay, Duke.
yeah.
He.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick between those two, yeah, I mean, probably Duke Ellington, just
Okay.
because, yeah. I mean, I got to see some of those old folks who still played churches and stuff when I was growing
Mhm.
up. Because a
Mhm.
bunch of those guys did that. And I didn't get to see Duke Ellington. So I don't know if I saw Dizzy Gillespie, but I saw a bunch of those old guys. Because, you know, that's what they did, right? They went and played
He just
churches in
played
a lot
all
of
the
places
time.
all the time.
Still
Yeah.
do. Still play
Yeah.
church. Unlike
Yeah.
you
Duke joint
guys, I
Saturday night, church on on
church
Sunday
in the
Yeah,
morning.
right. Exactly. Yeah.
got to learn all these tunes for Sunday. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
chose Dizzy.
Okay.
Okay.
Um, and he said, "Oh, okay, why?" I said, "Dizzy liked to ride elevators. He liked to go just ride up and down on the elevators. And like his playing was amazing. His cheeks were freaking huge. his horn got broke or bent and he still played it, he may do with what he had. And there's nothing against Duke Ellington, because we're
Right.
talking A Train, we're talking stuff
Yeah.
that, I mean, they're both icons, but if I had to pick one, it would be Diz, because Diz seemed like he'd be more fun to hang out with. And Sly chose what you guys chose. He chose Duke.
Because we're smart.
Right.
Or depraved. The same kind of depraved as Sly was.
Oh man, that's funny. And it's but it doesn't matter like who you choose. I think what Sly was trying to do is, are you your own person?
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
your opinion matter to you? And are you a yes man? Oh, I don't know. Who do you like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh yeah, well, I liked him too. And once he found that out, that I think to me it opens the door to, okay, I could trust him.
Yeah.
You know,
There wasn't a wrong answer. There was only the right answer of whatever your answer really was.
exactly.
There was a right answer of your sincerity.
And I get to understand the genius and why he did things. Like the first day I met him, Novena, I met it. It was
His
I know it
daughter.
was his second day. His daughter Novena. I had called Novena trying to get a. I was producing this artist, and me and Novena started talking. Found out we were related through Sly. She called me one day and said Sly needs a. Can you set up his studio for him? Hell yeah! So I go. He cracks the door open and he's got, that thing that Prince used to wear with the bandana that tied in the front.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Prince and Aunt Jemima.
Right.
Exactly.
That's what he had on.
Oh man.
Through the door, he hands me a wad of cash. I've never, this is my first interaction with him. Go to the store and get me what you think I need. Go to the Guitar Center. Get me whatever you think I need. And then closes the door. So I'm sitting there with wad of cash. Okay. So I go to the store and I bought it. And that was the first test. It's like, what do you want? You want money? Here. I'm gonna give you some money. If you never come back, you never will, because it's worth this much money not to know that I can't trust you.
Yeah.
So that was what that was. I brought back a bags of like, hey dude, we need to and then while I was in the Guitar Center, Paisley calls me, Paisley Hinton, high school buddy, and he says, hey, what you doing, man? Oh, like I'm
a musical giant. Let's say that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
This dude was bad.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah.
As a junior in high school.
Oh man. And he was like, I was like, yeah, Sly Stone gave me some money and I'm buying stuff for him. He was like, wait, who? Sly Stone?
Time out. I just want to say this. Wait. When I say he was bad, you know what he was bad at? Everything.
Yeah. Guitar,
bass,
drums.
He could play everything, and he was funky and cold on all of it. I mean, like, there's a thing that happens when you're, I hate to go off on this tangent in the middle of your story, but this needs to be acknowledged. I remember one time when I saw him play, because he was the kind of guy who he was technically in our high school jazz band, but he was never there.
Right.
He would just show up for performances.
Right.
And then one day, for whatever reason, he came to the class for a rehearsal. I think we had a performance coming up, and he just wanted to brush over the tunes. This was for him, not for anybody else. It wasn't like, well, I'm going to come in and I'm going to play my part so that everybody else can do whatever. He was like, no, I'm just going to come in, make sure I know my parts. And then he was just playing piano all the time, because that was super what he was into. And that jazz band session that we did before it was in the week before the performance, he sat on the drums. And I remember as he was playing the drums, I thought, this is a high school jazz band, and he's playing like a grown man.
Yeah.
He just had the musical voice of a grown ass man as a kid. And when I think about that, I think, well, man, we were very lucky to be able to witness that he had that kind of a thing, because Corey's always had magnificent chops, always. As long as you started playing keyboards before I met you, but you always had great practice discipline and you always learned things mechanically very well. And he's always had great chops. But, when you start to learn things like, what Sly did, where he would play things that would fill the spaces, and then when he would create spaces in his
Mhm,
composition
mhm,
that made rhythmic choices that were so advanced, and then to hear somebody who was our peer when it came to age,
mhm,
but so far beyond us when it came to understanding his voice in music.
mhm.
And that exposure was, it was so important. And so I just want to give gravity to the fact that while you're shopping at Guitar Center on behalf of Sly, that
Mhm.
you get a call from Paisley and that he's dumbfounded. What does it take to dumbfound a guy who's got a
Right.
grown man voice on every instrument?
And says, "Do you know who that is?" Yes, that's my cousin. And he said, "Wait, that's your cousin? I didn't know that was your cousin." And so every conversation after that, Paisley, we would shoot the shit, but then he would always ask about Sly. It was to the point, and there was a time, just like you guys. Remember, I said I want you guys to meet this guy. You
Hmm.
have to meet this guy. Paisley drove down
Hmm.
for a less than 5 minute, if that, to meet Sly. Drove down.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We came, shot the shit. Hey, let's go. I know where he was in the. By this time, he was in the camper.
Yeah.
I know. And you could see when on our way there, Paisley. You know how you kind of like, okay, how am I gonna act when I get around this guy?
Yeah.
Um, Kind of shifting. But it's no thing. I've done it all the time. I brought several people to meet him, and
Sure.
I pull over. I said, "Hold on, let me go make sure everything is all cool." He says, "Oh yeah, yeah, cool, cool." I go and knock on the door. Doors open. The people he was staying in front of these people's house. Um, One of the people that live in the house was there, and it was a female, and then Sly was on the right. I said, "Hey, what's up? Hey, I got a friend. I told him that I want him to meet you." And he said, "Oh yeah, yeah, cool, cool." Sly never once turned away a meeting that if I was like, "Hey, I want somebody to meet you."
Hmm.
Always. So Paisley gets out. I said, "Come on." I waved him on. He gets out and he walks over. I said, "This is Buck." Buck was there, and I forgot the lady's name that was there. He spoke to them, and I said, "That's Sylvester Stewart." And he shakes his hand, and it was like he shakes his hand. It's cool. And then I wait all about 3.5 seconds. Okay, let's go. And Paisley turns to walk out, and then he goes, "Hey, wait, I gotta ask you a question about." I forgot what song. It was one of the. It was a song I know it was the major scale descending, and he asked him about that song, and Sly started reciting back each note descending on the major scale, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And then that was the meeting. We go back, we shoot the shit. That was it. That was and I told him it's not gonna be long, but you will get to meet him just like when you guys met him.
Yeah.
Except you guys had a much longer experience because of the podcast and everything. But as many people as I could, I wanted Ellis Hall to meet him. I wanted there's so many people that I want to meet him. There's some people that I introduced him to that I regret introducing him to, not because and there was one person I introduced him to. He came out, shook their hand, and went right back into the not a good sign.
Yeah.
Not a good
Yeah.
sign.
Man.
And
Well, that only makes it more poignant that he spent as much time with us as he did, because he spent an awful lot of time with us.
yeah, and
Um,
I mean, and that's cool. So that
yeah, that was super cool.
I
Uh,
enjoy.
when I saw the report of his passing, um, I was it was James Early whose post I saw first.
Okay.
That's where I got the news, and man, my heart immediately sank. But then I started seeing other people's posts, and I clicked on one of them because it was an article, and I think it was either Rolling Stone or Variety
Mm,
had the obituary of him, and it said that he had passed, surrounded by family and a close friend.
mm.
And it made me wonder, was that close friend Bebe?
Bebe passed 8 months ago.
Oh man, I'm sorry to
Oh,
hear that.
Did you meet Bebe?
we
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
Yeah. I guess what? I found out yesterday that Bebe passed 8 months ago.
Oh
Oh wow.
man.
I was talking to his head of estate. I said, "Have you heard from Bebe?" And then that's when I was like, "What? Like, heaven must be having a sale." It's like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it. Um, I don't know who that close friend was because how I found out was through my little brother. Hey, the
Mm,
Sly pass. Wait, what? Hung up. Let me call you back. And then
yeah.
I called the head of estate, and yeah, it's true.
You
He's
know, we didn't stay in touch for very long after that, but I did exchange texts with him.
uh-huh. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, just a few texts over the following probably 3 or 4 weeks after we met him.
Mm.
And nothing serious, just, greetings. And just want to let him know I was thinking about him and stuff like that. And I don't even know if he kept the same number for very long after that. Um, but I thought it was a tremendous privilege that in just the, couple days that we spent um, getting to know him, that I called him Sil.
Mm.
That's all. There's no
Yeah.
follow up to that.
I
I felt like,
I switch between Seal, Sly,
uh-huh.
Sylvester. He answered to all of that stuff. I remember just a side memory. We were headed somewhere. I forgot where we were headed, and we started talking about arrangements and songs. And like, I was saying that people want to hear the songs in a different way. If they want to hear the songs like the record, they just listen to the record. Sly said, "No, you got to play the songs like the record." And I said, "Really? I think people want to hear different arrangements because, like Janet, you go see Janet Jackson, she'll do Pleasant Principle, but she'll do Pleasant Principle with a different
Yeah,
arrangement with all these
yeah.
hits and these stops." And he said, "No,
Right.
you got to play like the record." And you know why? And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because I'm Sly Stone."
That's a pretty good reason.
A good reason.
Yeah.
Enough said.
You could have started this podcast with that.
Yeah.
I should also have started this podcast by saying one person I'm going to send this to is John Tyson, um, who is also a relative of Sly, probably a relative of yours too. Aren't you related to the Tysons, Moses, and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Uh,
Pebbles,
anyway,
Pebbles was
Sean's the
my
young
first
sister.
influence on keyboards.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's see. Now that we're rounding third base, what house cleaning items do we have here? First of all, I wanted to say that you mentioned earlier Daryl had written the theme from Frasier, tossed salad and scrambled eggs, with Claire Fisher. And just in case anybody's still on and doesn't know who Claire Fisher is, he was a very renowned, world famous string arranger.
Yeah.
And he had done plenty of work on all kinds of things, to include a bunch of work with Prince.
Yeah.
He had done like the string arrangements on the Parade album were his. He also did the strings on Anniversary by Tony.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
I've heard, and
yeah.
he was the when listening to his arrangements, I realized, oh, dude, this dude loves the two. Like
Mhm.
his high note will be the two or the nine.
Hmm.
Um, and just studied it. It would sound out, but it would be in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's cold, man. That's quite an analysis.
that
That
Claire.
was his secret. That was his secret sauce.
But yeah, and then he also used it on a lot of pop artists, a lot of R&B artists of the 90s, 80s.
90s and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. You hear the Claire Fisher style, and it was unique to him. He knew the theory behind all of that.
Mm.
And there are interviews that I've watched on YouTube where he's explaining, and he's a good jazz pianist. His chord structures were, I was like, okay, this dude studied. He knows, or he got a great ear. You know, I didn't even know if he could read, but just amazing, just amazing. And Daryl doesn't read music, but the way he feels and the way he writes things down. I'm like, wait, why are you putting this little dot right there? Oh, that means I go lower.
That's how he understands it.
And then that's how I go higher. But it works for him.
Right.
And Daryl's arrangement, very Manhattan Transfer, for people. Manhattan Transfer, very Take Six, or people who don't know Take Six, Jacob Collier. That type of style. And I'm working with a writer now, singer, Kevin Henderson. My God. Say he's like Manhattan, Jacob, Take Six, all rolled into. I mean, he's a freaking monster.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And Daryl's lyrics, and Daryl's a Gemini, and his the way he approaches things. It's just amazing. I'm working with him right now on a brief. And he's got a great. I did a Sapporo beer commercial with that guy. He's got a great way of reading briefs, like the description of, hey, we're looking for this. They'll read it and say that's what they say they're looking for, but they're really looking for this. And then we would do it, and that was perfect.
Well, that is the mark of a good, whoever's doing the selections for the set, whoever the band leader is who decides to take a detour off the set list, or the mark of every great DJ is that they don't play you what you want, they play you what you didn't realize you really wanted.
Right. And Daryl was the one who got his crew on the Michael Jackson gig. They did it, and it was Daryl, Dorian Holly, I forgot this other guy's name, and Sheryl Crow. Sheryl Crow, before she blew up.
Yeah.
I think back in the 90s. They did a
Wow, but Daryl stayed with Michael Jackson, right? Because wasn't he in the This Is It movie?
Yeah, he is in This Is It. He was with Michael Jackson for like 15 years.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and him and Dorian. Dorian is out with he sings with James Taylor right now. And they both together, Dorian and Daryl, toured with Rod Stewart. Just amazing cats. And Daryl met Sly, I think I would say 3 times. He met him he met him when he came over to Sly's house. He met him again at the NAMM show when Sly did the speaking engagement at NAMM. And then he met him a 3rd time in the hotel because Sly needed somebody to sing on, and Sly really likes his vocals and stuff like that.
Yeah, his approach, his professionalism.
Yeah.
I think in closing, I want to say this with as much respect as I have in my heart, that we never got the comeback we all wanted from Sly Stone. And that's the shame, was that it seemed like he was finally in a place where he was willing to be heard again. And he had just released something, and it seemed like releases were forthcoming because he had always been a creator. He was creating constantly. We just never got to hear it. And finally, when he let something out, he passed away. And that's the biggest shame of all, was that we all wanted it, even as long as it has been, the world continued to thirst for whatever he had to say, and he passed before he really began saying it all.
The whatever was released was probably post, because he hadn't written anything new in like 3 or 4 years. So whatever that was, I didn't know. I know he did a record with this one label, and I tracked his vocals. But he wasn't writing. He was just existing, and I could divulge more to you guys, but off the record.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, on the record though, he was he had spent some time working on himself in the last few years.
Last few years, just not musically though.
Okay.
That was
That was not what he needed at the time.
He was. I mean,
He was doing what he needed.
I want to tell you, but I don't want to piss anybody in the family.
Well, let's hit let's hit the stop button. We just wanted to acknowledge our love for Sly Stone, and
I do
don't
want
say
to
it
tell
enough.
this one quick story. I remember he called me and he said, "Come over. I finally think I'm the man that you think I am."
Mm.
And I was like, "Alrighty then." And I didn't. I mean, I knew he knew what I thought of him. I mean, it's Sly Stone, but I didn't think he thought that way. That it's like, So I go over there. He stayed in a hotel. I sit on the bed. He's at the desks that are in those hotels. There's a laptop and keyboard, and he's sitting in the chair. And he hits the space bar. He hits the space bar, turns around and looks at me, and I hear it was funkier than If You Want Me to Stay, and Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself put together.
Ooh.
This track was so funky. I was like this. I was like, what the hell?
I love Corey's "That's So Funky, I Don't Know What to Do" face.
Right. And then I listened to the whole track, and then I started going from instrument to go ahead. Yeah, they're working on my bathroom. Then I started going from instrument to instrument, just trying to decipher the funk. Never heard that track again. And I was just like, whoo! But it just goes to show you that that's how easy it was for him.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
He
okay.
Sounds like he was proud of
by
it.
saying, obviously he summoned you to come listen to it, but I went to I played a gig at Bohemian Grove. And I met this guy who I'll allow to remain nameless, but in my meeting with this guy, and I played, so he saw me play, and then we talked afterwards, and he wanted to flex. He was like, "Well, I know something about music. These are all guys that have a lot of money," and he said, "I know something about music. I just bought the record plant."
Whoa!
And he started to tell me about the record plant in Sausalito, and I stopped him. I was like, "You know what? I know." And he said something, and I was like, "No, listen, let me tell you what happened." And I was able to tell him, because I had studied that place and its history longer than he had. He just bought the real estate.
Okay.
But he did have a sincere desire to bring that place back to its glory, and that's what he was really interested in doing. So he was talking to me about, the guys who he was bringing in. He had bought, when they closed Fantasy, he bought the console at Fantasy and moved it up to. So he was serious about bringing it back. So he said, "Here's my guy's number. I'll give it to you, and if you ever are in the neighborhood, you call him and get over there." So I made sure within the following month that I got in that neighborhood, so I could call the guy, and I told him, "Hey, this is I'd like to come by and see the place." So I got to tour. I don't know where it is now. That's been maybe a year and a half. But I got to tour the recently purchased but not yet opened back up record plant.
Oh wow!
And and at one point we got to the room in the back where a lot of rumors had been recorded.
Uh-oh. Right in the middle of his story.
Right. So I was going to ask him, is it Rumors by Timex Social Club?
Oh yeah. I thought he meant Fleetwood Mac, but
okay, yeah.
Either way, great songs.
Right,
I'll say I don't know if you've ever
Fleetwood Mac recorded at the record plant.
You said Rumors, and I thought about Fleetwood Mac. I'm not sure. Somewhere over there, right? Somewhere.
Wait, Fleetwood Mac is a Bay Area group?
Kinda. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Only kinda. Yeah.
I thought they were like Midwest.
Well,
like
I thought that they were let's see, two of them I think were from like Redwood City or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It is kind of bad, but yeah.
Hey, there he is. Yeah, we were just talking about. Did you mean Rumors like Timex Social Club, or did you mean Rumors Fleetwood Mac, or maybe you meant both?
Yeah, no, I meant Fleetwood Mac. Anyway,
Wait, Fleetwood Mac recorded it at the record plant.
yeah, rumors. But there
Okay.
was a room behind there. And when we got to that room, he said, in this room, Sly Stone lived here for about 3 months. And I can't remember what he recorded there, but he was living there for 3 months. He'd made this record, and then he left, and then came back and lived there again. And he actually dug a tunnel, or had somebody dig a tunnel, so that he could get in and out of that room in the record plant without having to go through the traditional entrance of the place while he was living there. And I thought, yeah, it sounds like something he would do.
Yeah, that's some what's his name that's in prison right now that had a tunnel dug underneath the prison so he can
Oh,
get
some
out.
El Chapo. Yeah.
That's some Chapo shit right there. That's like
Yeah.
yeah.
The thing I wanted to say, and just because when we got a chance to do this, Sly was fragile, wasn't a lot of Sly left, and so when we did that interview, and you, I don't know if you've listened to that show ever, Corey. It's really good. You actually were in it because we were all in the hotel room. You were like, and you got up and got on the microphone. It was really cool. Everybody should check that show. I'll put the link in there. It's a really great thing. And one of the things John and I, this is me talking to the audience, one of the things John and I did and realized is that we didn't have enough Sly for a whole hour, but we could go and interview all these other people. And we had been and kept asking them about Sly. And there was so much content. It was wonderful. But a lot of those people from that show, or the people that are referenced, a lot of them are gone already. And so if we hadn't gotten
talk to Rusty Allen.
No,
I don't think
didn't
we
know
talked to
Rusty at the
Rusty.
time.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
You didn't
No,
know Rusty Allen and guitar player Jody Watley. I just did a gig with Jody Watley and the guitar. Oh, he used to produce with Sly.
Oh.
And
come on, man. Come up with that name.
His T. I have to look up. I know the drummer knows him. But,
there's so many people that have a Sly story, right? We could have, we had to cut stuff out. It was a powerful thing. People that made that show were Mick Gillette. He passed away shortly, probably before we even finished that thing.
Really?
Yeah.
You mentioned Bobby Womack in that show, and obviously
Bobby got me the gig. Well, Sly got me the gig with Bobby Womack.
Wow.
Bobby called me and said, "Your cousin Sly gave me your number, and he said you better play your ass off, or he gonna beat your ass." I was like, "Hey, I'm down." Bro.
Also, some shit Sly would do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like the time when he told the champ, "Calm down."
Oh, you remember that?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, "Wait a minute!" And Sly, like you said earlier, he's not a big dude. And you're talking like that to Muhammad Ali? You loking up on Muhammad Ali?
I love Muhammad Ali in front of folks.
I'm talking now.
I'm talking now.
I'll tell you the only thing that I regret. I remember Sly calling me and saying, "Oh, it's open. It's open."
Boy, you must have blew that bathroom up, Corey.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Oh no, it's all good. He said, "Come by. I need you to come by tonight." And I was like, I was tired. I think I worked all. I was like, okay, I'll just go in the morning. And I get there in the morning. He said, "How come you didn't come by last night?" I was like, "Oh, man, I was tired. I'm so sorry, man. I mean, what do you need?" He's like, "I want you to come by last night because I had Eddie Murphy and Shaka Khan here, and I wanted to introduce them to you."
Man.
The only time I'm not on time and just go. But what that taught me is hey, when it's somebody at that level and they ask you, just go.
Go.
You're tired, just go.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I will never get to redeem myself from that. Not now, but
right.
I learned a valuable lesson.
Say yes.
Well, that's sort of my point here about this thing that we made. It was limited time when we could get it done. And it'd be easier not to do it. But we did. All these people who aren't, Dwayne Wiggins is not around anymore. We never got another show with him like we wanted to. And so if you're inclined towards doing something, do that thing. Even if it's not perfect, like Corey learned, don't be so worried about where the damn keys are. Just get the goddamn thing played because that's what we do when we're trying to get these things done. Not that Corey sucks. Corey's incredible. But it would have been easier for us to never publish anything. And I'm so proud of that thing. I'm proud of you, John, for doing it.
Yeah.
Corey, you set everything up for us.
Likewise.
It's all incredible.
Yeah. You know, the thing, the other thing that happened was one of the people we called was Johnny Cola from
Yes.
Huey Lewis and the News.
Oh, really?
And when we said, can you speak to what influence Sly had on you? He told us something I didn't know, which was, you know, he owed Epic Records 6 albums and he had delivered 4 of them. And then the band broke up. And Epic called and told him, Sly, we don't care who the Family Stone is. You owe us 2 more records.
Yeah.
So you need to get you some more family members and put a band back together and
It's over.
deliver those 2 records. And so when he did, he needed a sax player, and the sax player who got that gig was Johnny Cola.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we were like, wait a minute, say what? And he
Yeah.
goes, yeah, man, I was in the Family Stone after the Family Stone broke up. I was in the second iteration.
Wow.
So we
He
just hit
also
the
said-
jackpot
Had he
calling
been
him.
around, I would ask him about, because I wanted to know about Andy Newmark.
Oh yeah, Andy Newmark. Cole.
Yeah.
Who played on In Time.
Uh-huh.
That's Andy Newmark. And then I want to know Billy Preston also played with Sly. That was Billy Preston. That was Sly Stone's favorite keyboard player. He said nobody sounded like Billy. He said Billy Preston. But one day Sly came to me and said, remember I told you that Billy Preston's the best keyboard player I've ever heard? And I said, yeah. He said, not anymore. And he played me this band. I don't even know who they were. They sent him a recording of them playing one of his songs. And I listened. I said, who the hell is that? He said, I don't know. But it was cold.
Wow.
And
you still don't know who that player was?
I don't know. I have no
Wow.
idea. I would like he gets stuff in the mail, and
Yeah.
There are so many people with so many stories. I've run into people who says, "Oh yeah, I'm related to Sly Stone," and I'm like, "Are you now?" So
Yeah.
how are you related to him? And then like Moses and they're related to him. But I am still in awe of having worked with him on having recorded his vocals. My name is in the credits on this album. As a tracking engineer of his vocals, and being called time after time again to help with the computers and playing. When we did Coachella, he said, I need you to put a band together for me, and I don't want everybody to be black. And so that's when I called Jesse Stern, white bass player. I called Crystal Cluley, white background singer.
Yeah.
Everyone else was black.
Plus, and you're about 3 people worth of black, so you need to get more white people in that band.
But it was, and then when we recorded, I sent him a recording of it, and he said, now this is the only time he broke protocol, and he said, "Woo, you's a bad boy." He said, you make me, I'll smoke less to do it with this band.
Wow.
What?
Dude. Another one of those times I wish I had recorded that, but
yeah.
Among other stories, there's more stories. That's a whole nother.
Right.
So, but
well, let's get out of these people's way and let them get back to their day, so you can tell us the more lurid stories, because those were a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sly Stone. Thank you for everything.
Yeah. Love you, Sly.
Yeah. We love you. All right, here we go. Stand by.